Howdy folks, Shell Presto here. So this video is going to be the first of what I call a sketch-in chat. This session we'll talk about artist block, because it fits in really well with the whole reasoning behind why I'm doing these sketch-in chats. I don't ever really get art block. Writer's block, yes, but not artist block. If anyone wants me to do a video about writer's block, I'd be happy to do it if I get enough requests. But it's just artist block today. Truth be told, between all the big pieces and the stuff I have to get done, I'm always doing other art. I don't often work continuously day after day on a single piece of artwork until it's completed. I may work on a big piece for 1 to 3 days, get to a tedious part or feel like I'm not sure how to progress, and work on something else to give myself a break and stretch my artistic muscles. Sometimes I just need a break from a piece because I've been looking at it for hours or days. Sometimes I hit a point where if I keep going on that piece right now, I risk ruining it. That could be because I'm rusty or never tried something. For example, if I've never drawn a specific texture before and I think I know a way to get it with a new medium, I'll go and see if that way would work on a smaller piece. Or if I want to shade a character's face a particular way that I haven't tried before, I may try it on a smaller, different piece, so I don't ruin the big important one. Sometimes it's because I start a piece without having a full concept in mind. For example, that cheap art supply challenge with the psychic girl, Caitlin, came about because I was working on a bigger piece of her and realized I didn't know what she'd be wearing in that piece. And, since I collaborate with my husband, I had also intended for her to be giving Signalman a telekinetic boost, but my husband suggested that a different character, Fighting Yank, would be better. Since I needed to work out more details in a different pose, I took a break. My entire point is, I end up working on pieces piecemeal, here and there, without a hard deadline or sometimes taking months or a year to finish them. But I'm always drawing, and I want to share those smaller drawings and sort of pointless but fun sketching sessions with you. They're part of my art journey too. They're where I have fun and practice and learn new techniques. And sessions like this, if you are an artist, should be part of your art journey too. So that's my first suggestion to beat artist block. Work on a different drawing. You don't have to work start to finish on every piece. I find that's a great way to get bored with drawing altogether. And you may start trying to avoid drawing just to avoid a tough or easy but tedious spot on a single piece. Have a couple little things you're working on here or there between big projects. Or start a little project that presents a smaller version of a problem you are having with a more difficult drawing. That way, you can always flex and relax a bit when you hit a wall. Suggestion number 2. Keep in-progress works handy. I haven't done many sketchbook tours on this channel, and that's because I generally tear a bunch of pages out of my sketchbooks. My filled sketchbooks are often skeletons, only practices and warm-ups with all the finished artwork torn out. I have a tower of trays, the kind people use to sort mail or documents in offices, on my desk. One tray holds projects I'm actively working on and want to finish sooner rather than later. This can be book illustrations for written stories that are nearly complete, or pieces for videos that I'd like to release soon. Another tray holds drawings that I'd like to finish, but I'm in no hurry to, like that 8-page comic I talked about in my New Year's resolution video. You can, of course, have multiple pieces in a single sketchbook and flip between them. But all my sketchbooks end up being a mix of finished pieces, quick sketch exercises, unfinished pieces I gave up on because they weren't going in the right direction, and unfinished pieces I want to finish. But the pages are filled, and I move on to a new sketchbook. And if I leave those 5 or 10 or 15 pieces that I wanted to finish in the old sketchbook, they just stay there on the shelf or in a drawer, and I never remember them. But if I tear them out and put them in a tray, or you can use a folder if you're tight on space, or even tape them into your new sketchbook, If I keep them in an easily accessible place, then when I have the thought in my head, oh, I don't know what to draw, or I don't feel like drawing, well, I can just flip through, and usually seeing something I've forgotten about gets me excited about it, and I can pick up that older drawing and hop right back in. Suggestion number 3. Another tray just has photos of things I want to practice drawing. I get catalogs addressed to current resident all the time that the previous resident of this house used to get. Shoe catalogs and camping catalogs and travel catalogs. I don't do or buy any of the things in these catalogs, but I'll page through them, and if I see a pose that looks interesting, I'll rip that page out and put it in my neat poses I want to draw tray. I may even rip pictures out that I don't want to draw, but that maybe have a lighting arrangement or color scheme that I'd like to try in an unrelated scenario, like a sunset on water, or water on a rock, or weird things like that. Sometimes the poses end up just being a quick pencil sketch to warm up that I spend 2 or 5 minutes on, and it never goes beyond that, which is totally fine and still very beneficial. But sometimes, like what I'm drawing right now, the pose can inspire an entire piece and turn into something I wasn't expecting to draw in the first place. I'm drawing my character Labyrinth, by the way. He's a mage. The I studied really hard to learn this kind of stuff mage, not the kind who just seems to know magic intuitively. Anyway, he's a mage who can manipulate space and coordinates, particularly using ley lines. I have to use words carefully here. I want to say his most common trick, but I mean that in the way that it's the one he does the most, not that it's commonplace. He's one of very, very few people who can do it. So Labyrinth's most common trick is to make the destination on one side of a doorway go somewhere it shouldn't. But that will make more sense when I paint this piece. He's studying in this piece, both because honing his skills requires it, and because he likes books more than most people. And by that I mean he likes books more than most people like books, but also that he likes books more than he likes most other people. Anyway, catalogs are great because they're free. If there are any companies you order from regularly, or even just brands you think are interesting that you never buy from, see if they have a website where you can request a catalog be mailed to you. It's also good to pick up magazines if you have the money to. Go to the magazine aisle in the grocery store or bookstore, if you're lucky enough to live near a bookstore. The closest one to me is an hour away. And take a long time and look at what's available. If you want to draw guys, buy a muscle magazine or sports or workout magazine, even if you don't care about body fat or football or lifting weights. There are entire magazines devoted to just hairstyles. Hundreds of photos of different styles. If you buy just one of those, you will probably be set for drawing women's hair for life. There are magazines devoted to cars, decorating houses, fish, and while some are really expensive, some are really, really cheap and provide better practice reference photos than some drawing books. Just remember not to sell or make prints of drawings that you copy verbatim from magazines. Rights to photos and all that jazz is a completely different topic for another day. But just practicing from photos, or changing a lot of elements, or just using a pose, are all fair game. Let family and friends know you want any magazines they're done with, too. Most people just throw them out. I found a great Spider-Man-esque wall-crawling pose in a wall wipe advertisement in Women's Day or Good Housekeeping. Not my normal cup of tea, but browse through because you don't know what cool poses you may find in the advertisements. And tip number 4 ties back into tip number 3. When you really can't decide what to draw, or if you don't feel like drawing, just sit down at your drawing space and force yourself to practice. A big part of artist block is the feeling that your art has to be, well, art. That it has to be meaningful, that it has to be finished or polished or tell a story. And that's a great way to burn yourself out. If you can be switched on all the time, fantastic. But most people can't. It's okay to just draw for the sake of getting anything down on paper. And even if you sit down and do 10 line of action practices, those are like single lines you turn into stick figures, or gesture drawings, or one quick half-finished drawing of your own hand, or even trace over a reference photo just to get a feel for how the clothing folds. Any of these things are still drawing. Simple exercises will keep you in the habit of picking up that pencil, and eventually you will feel the desire to work on more ambitious pieces of art return. Not to mention that simple practices will keep your skills advancing even when your creativity is in the gutter. You will be a better artist when your creative urges come back if you practice in the meantime, even if those practices don't seem like they're turning out well. Can't get the third panel of that webcomic to come out of your brain or wrist? Pick a reference from your tray or folder, or look at some item on the table, or the person standing across the room from you, or the folds of the curtain, or a tree, and just scribble that into your sketchbook. If you've never drawn what you see before, even better. And it doesn't matter how well you do. Drawing what is in front of you stimulates those drawing urges and chips away at artist block like nothing else. And it's because I've gotten in this habit that I generally still manage to draw every single day, even if I don't feel like working on a particular project. So there you go. 4 tips to keep you drawing through artist block, with number 1 requiring the most thought and creativity, down to number 4, which only requires you to commit to sitting down with a pencil in hand, brain and creativity not required. One thing I want to say is that you may be tempted to keep your folder or tray of reference poses digitally on, say, Pinterest or Instagram. And that's great. I totally have inspiration boards full of poses or cool color schemes or research and stuff like that. But you risk digital overload and distraction when you rely on those during an artist block. If you're already struggling with artist block in the first place, you are not going to be very motivated to draw. If you hop on Instagram or Pinterest when you don't want to draw, you're very likely to forget drawing altogether and procrastinate by browsing more. So having a physical pile of things you want to draw nearby will help you focus. The internet is great, folks. I love it. But stepping away from the internet occasionally can help your art when art feels difficult. As a matter of fact, if you are suffering from art block right now, and that's how you found this video, subscribe. Hey, I had to say it. Then pause this video, grab a piece of paper, and draw the first thing you see in real life. Even if you only give it 5 minutes, do it right now, and bam, you'll be 5 minutes closer to beating off artist block with your mighty pen stick. Go on, try it. The video will still be here when you're done. If you're still here, just let me say that if you do keep your references digitally, consider going into your settings and turning off both the Wi-Fi and the mobile data or 4G while you draw, so you don't get distracted by the lovely lore of the internet. To round those up, 1. Don't get stuck on one drawing. Work on a different one if you need a break. 2. Keep in-progress works somewhere where you won't forget they exist, so you can easily come back to them. 3. Collect interesting photos from catalogs and magazines, and keep them on file for yourself. Turn to them when you're bored or need a change of pace. 4. Force yourself to practice, either from your collection of references or simply by drawing what's in front of you. No matter how simple, you keep the practices. And finally, beware the distractions of the internet when keeping references online. I hope those tips help you. I know this is not the most impressive drawing that you've seen on this channel, and I hope you can still enjoy sharing the experience of watching me draw without it ending in a big inked or colored piece with all the bells and whistles and polish inherent in completion. Some future sketch-in chats will have nothing to do with art and may just be about something interesting I saw or experienced or a funny story. But I'm going to try to keep a lot of them focused on art advice or discussions that I may not be able to cover while I tell you how I did a technique in a more interesting, polished drawing, or tell you a problem that I had in the drawing process, or tell you a story like in those Christmas videos. So I hope you'll join me again in the future. If any of that sounds pleasant, please consider subscribing to my channel. Likewise, if there's anything you want me to talk about in a future sketch-in chat, let me know your questions in the comments. And of course, if you have any neat suggestions that have helped you fend off artist block, leave them in the comments. And while I don't suspect you'll be intrigued about Labyrinth from just this sketch, if you do want to know more about the second most normal member of the New Jersey Institute for Metaphysical and Phenomenological Studies, that's IMPS for short, know that he will be appearing in future Challenger Confidential books, and that AMP doesn't like him. And if you don't know who AMP is, please consider picking up the first Challenger Confidential novella, Copper Knights and Granite Men. It's co-written and illustrated by yours truly, and book sales help the channel. Most of all, though, I hope you folks have an awesome day. Presto, over and out. This is Nessie. He is not the most normal member of IMPS. And he'll have you know that he is not a dinosaur, he's a marine reptile. Nessie will appear in future Challenger Confidential books too. Have a great day, folks. Presto, over and out.